Penguin Random House Audio presents The Woman Who Would Be King, Hatshepsut's Rise to Power in Ancient Egypt. This is the author, Cooney. Author's note. Certainty plays little role in this history of Hatshepsut. The nature of the information passed down to us is uneven, and because so many of her monuments were destroyed, the jumble of perceptions we are left with are from other people, many of whom lived millennia after her death. I have had to break many rules of my Egyptological training in order to resurrect and reanimate Hatshepsut's intentions, ambitions, and disappointments by engaging in conjecture and speculation and creating untestable hypotheses as I attempt to fill out her character and decision-making processes, even though I document my sources and accentuate my uncertainties. Any supposition on my part is warranted, I believe, because Hatshepsut remains an important example of humanity's ambivalent perception of female authority. Even in the absence of exact historical details and reasons behind Hatshepsut's actions, I can still track her rise to power by following the clues left behind by herself, other kings, courtiers, officials, and priests, thus filling out the circumstances of her life's journey as I go. I have decided to forego any long-winded analysis of architectural history, relief, statuary, text, and genealogy, instead focusing solely on Hatshepsut's narrative. I have also eschewed reconstructions of Hatshepsut's ambitious building program because the extensive evidence of it already fills many volumes. Indeed, Hatshepsut's impressive architectural agenda has lured historians into creating a narrative of objects and buildings in lieu of a history of Hatshepsut herself. This book is about a woman of antiquity and her interactions with Egyptian systems of government and power players, her decisions, her ambitions, her desperation, her triumphs, and her defeats. As I follow Hatshepsut's story from her ancestral beginnings to her bitter end, I will watch what she did and how she did it within the context of her times, and present my hypotheses explaining her motivations and thought processes. Many historians will no doubt accuse me of fantasy, inventing emotions and feelings for which I have no evidence, and they will be right. As I try to get at the human core of Hatshepsut, I will put many ideas and assumptions on the page. This is the best way for me to reconstruct her decision-making process. My conjectures, founded on 20 years of Egyptological research, are bounded and informed. What I say about Hatshepsut's emotions may not be right, but when I engage in conjecture, I do my best to qualify the statement, or to offer alternatives, or to clarify any uncertainty in my writing. The inexactitude remains, however, as is the case with any historical study of the ancient world. This book is a kind of pause for me, something completely different from my previous Egyptological research dealing with funerary data sets and coffin studies. I have used all my skills as a researcher, but I have also allowed myself to think out loud, to infer and imagine in a way I would not do in my other work. This book finds its origins in my intimate, and strange even to myself, connection to the ancient world, and I have to thank the countless scholars who share the same obsession with Egypt's past, generations of archaeologists who uncovered Hatshepsut's remnants in the dirt, philologists who translated and analyzed her texts, art historians who pieced together broken statues and found traces of her relief erased by chisels. They have paved the way for this biographical discussion of Hatshepsut's relevance. Preface. Hatshepsut was the first woman to exercise long-term rule over Egypt as a king. Other Egyptian women had governed before her, but they merely served as regents or leaders for short periods of time. If we combine her regency and kingship, Hatshepsut reigned for almost 22 years. Even more remarkably, Hatshepsut achieved her power without bloodshed or social trauma. We have no evidence of any messy assassinations of her family members or attempted coups that nearly succeeded, led by her or anyone else. Though Hatshepsut's rise to power was clean and creative, it required every weapon in her arsenal, invoking her bloodline, education, political acumen, along with a deep and sometimes radical understanding of religious power. So why do so few people today know the name of this extraordinary woman? We know about Cleopatra VII's murders, sexual exploits, economic excesses, and disastrous military campaigns. Hatshepsut was, as far as we can tell, not a seducer of great generals in charge of legions, for the practical reason that there existed no men greater than she. Rather than seduce mere mortals, she created a mechanism to publicly and inexorably prove the gods' love for her without having to submit sexually to men. She is not remembered for any disastrous battles, because all her military exploits brought her people and her gods greater imperial wealth. There are no stories preserved about her conniving to procure cash, because she had more money than anyone in the known world. She is not remembered for her nasty death, because there is no evidence of her expulsion, murder, or suicide. Hatshepsut has the misfortune to be antiquity's female leader who did everything right, a woman who could match her wit and energy to a task so seamlessly that she made no waves of discontent that have been recorded. For Hatshepsut, all that endured were the remnants of her success, props for later kings who never had to give her the credit she deserved. Male leaders are celebrated for their successes, while their excesses are typically excused as the necessary and expected price of masculine ambition. A king's risk-taking is more likely to be perceived as crucial and advantageous, something that can bring great reward if he wins. Even the sociopathic narcissism of a male leader can be suffered. Women in power who do everything wrong offer great narrative fodder. Cleopatra, Jezebel and her daughter Athaliah, Semiramis, Empress Leu. They are dangerous, untrustworthy, self-interested to a fault. Their sexuality and powers of attraction can bring all to ruin. History has shown that a woman who pushes the envelope of ambition is not just maligned in the history books as a conniving, scheming seductress whose foolhardy and emotional desires brought down the good men around her, but also celebrated in infamous detail as proof that females should never be in charge. In this regard, ancient Egypt was surprisingly contemporary, allowing Hatshepsut any opportunity to rule in the first place. But Hatshepsut saved the day and her dynasty by paving the way for a baby king who was probably gnawing on his crook and flail during his own coronation. And what may consign Hatshepsut to obscurity is our inability to appreciate and value honest, naked female ambition, not to mention actual power properly wielded by a woman. Posterity cherishes the idea that there is something oppressive and distrustful about women who rule over men, that their mercurial moods have the power to destroy, that their impolitic natures ruin carefully tended alliances, that their agenda on behalf of their children will endanger any broader political interests. These critical perceptions make it difficult to properly rank Hatshepsut's achievements in history. We lose the opportunity to either laud her for her successes or dissect her methodologies and tactics. How does one categorize a female leader who does not follow the expected course of disaster and shame, one who instead puts everything to rights in the end, in a way so perfect that her masculine beneficiaries just sweep her victories under the rug and ignore her forever? Why does Hatshepsut's leadership still trouble us today? Female rulers are often implicitly branded as emotional, self-interested, lacking in authority, untrustworthy, and impolitic. The ancient Egyptians likewise distrusted a woman with authority, and this context makes Hatshepsut's achievements all the more astonishing. For more than 20 years, she was the most powerful person in the ancient world. But when she finally died, all that she had built was instantly over. There would be no legacy. Hatshepsut's achievements are relevant to us precisely because they were ultimately rejected and forgotten, both by her own people and by the subsequent authors of history. She was the most formidable and successful woman to ever.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?